Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome and blessed Monday to episode 530 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight my voice is trash. Complete trash right now. Got sick over the weekend because the cold's going around the house with the kids. And as you all know, when you got the cold, you got the post-nasal drip going on. Your voice doesn't last very long. Had a day of teaching, and so voice is not very good. Now, I've already had 1 cup of tea before the stream to, give it a little bit of a boost and a little bit of protection. We'll see if it actually pans out, but I will not be able to do a full show tonight. But we are going to talk about a lot of stuff because obviously we've got the big box office from the weekend, Wicked, getting the #1 spot, but also coming in a bit below where people were expecting it to. The projections for the weekend for Wicked were a lot higher than what the film actually made. And in fact, we now have the actuals from the weekend, and they were adjusted down by a couple of million of dollars. So even though I do still believe, as I mentioned in my video yesterday, that this is going to be a movie that likely is going to really do well during the days of the week, right? Because there's a lot of schools and locations that are off for either the whole week or at the very least starting to pick up on Wednesday and Thursday, of course. I do think that it is going to be able to pick that up pretty quickly, and it's going to be able to make up, I think, for whatever it didn't do this past weekend. And I think the big question, of course, on everyone's mind is just how well does the film do over the weekend, especially when up against Moana 2, which is coming out this week and is expected to have a premiere on Wednesday. And so that's going to be very interesting. And I honestly am not quite sure exactly what is going to happen, because though I suspect that Moana's opening will be able to beat the day it comes out, the Wicked box office, I don't know what's going to take the weekend, because Wicked will be a week out from its initial release. Usually you see a drop-off, but we are going into a holiday frame, so things don't always work the same exact way. And then Moana 2 is going after a lot of the audience that likely is wanting to go and see a show like Wicked. And so it's going to be an interesting battle between those two, and it's going to be an actual battle. It's not going to be like the Wicked Gladiator conversation, this attempt to try to create a Barbenheimer-esque meme, which very astroturfed, just isn't going to work, because Gladiator domestically is just not doing much of anything at all. And I don't suspect that it will. Now, it still makes a lot of money internationally. Will that be enough? It still is too early to tell there, but we will have a conversation about that. And also, as you see in the title of the video, indeed, this week is Thanksgiving. So we will right now wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. We'll obviously wish it at the very end of the stream as well. And also in the title, Landman, a new show, a new series from Taylor Sheridan. That dude puts out shows, let me tell you. And I really can't think of too many shows that were complete duds that came from his mind, at least not that I have seen. And Landman is no exception to that rule. Landman is a very solid show. I've got some gripes, mostly with the nonsense that they try to push into shows like that, Paramount Plus show in this case. But man, oh man, the cast of this show and the story that it is telling, and there is a clip now making the rounds. A clip making the rounds right now where, Billy Bob Thornton, who plays the main character in the show, goes off on this huge rant and tangent against green energy. And it is so just spot on and said in such a matter-of-fact way, where I will have to say right now, it seems to me that Taylor Sheridan don't know what his politics are, but when it comes to his writing for this show, which I believe he at least directed the first episode, and so clearly has a much more direct tie to this show than a show like Yellowstone, which he created, but it's really in the hands of other people, it seems, or even some of the other shows that we enjoy from him. I think that this is a case where maybe Taylor Sheridan's a little bit based. But anyway, let's go ahead and say, first off, hello to the people in the chat. Make sure you smash that like button, live that fire button over on Aussie, smash the rumble button as well. We are live over on Twitter/X as well. And let's get some comments on the screen. And again, Won't have a full show tonight because I just don't think my voice will be able to take it, but we'll see what we can do. First off, Snorterpoopus Cuber saying, hello, human than other quitteth. What's going on, Snorterpoopeth? He then said, hello to you, good sir. We got Laura, the Mana Major General story. My voice is going to sound terrible tonight. Anyway, Laura saying, shoving Panera in my face, so tasty. Ooh, very nice. Hope that you are enjoying it. We got Killy Chow hanging out. What is going on? Saying, how are Thor, Freya, Baby Sif doing? Everyone is doing well, other than just having a cold. So, Baby Sif is got, runny nose and that stuff, but otherwise is perfectly fine. Thor also runny nose, very, very snotty, but otherwise doing okay. Feeling a lot better. I threw my back out a few weeks ago, and the telehealth that I got prescribed a pain medicine that really didn't do much. I finally got to see my actual doctor this week, and she was like, I don't know why they only prescribed that. And so let's just say I've got some, and don't worry, I'm responsible and all that stuff, but I got a muscle relaxer that's helped quite a bit with the back feeling a lot better. Don't even have an ice pack on it right now, which is nice. Let's see. We got Forever Sci-Fi. Hail to you, Forever Sci-Fi. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being a member on the channel as well. And again, if you're just jumping in, my voice is trash. And again, I apologize. Gary Benjamin was worried and saying, OMG, Wicked is shiz. Some of the attempted singing hurts my ears. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Gary. Everything that I've seen trailer-wise, if we're just going based off of music singing, sounds great. Like, again, I can be pretty objective with this. I am one that typically, not always, but typically can separate art from the artist. And though I think it's despicable, the things that this woman has said, right, the woman who's playing Elphaba, and though I'm also not the biggest fan of where Ariana Grande has taken herself and her own career and the decisions that she's made, I can't deny the fact that she is a very talented singer. I believe Cynthia Erivo is got a musical background as well. So I don't know if you're talking about them specifically, but they can sing. Anyway, Jimmy A. Hail Chad and Odin. What's up, Jimmy A? Thank you also for being a member. Carl Jacobs, any thoughts yet on Dear Santa? Haven't seen it. I don't know what that's referring to. I have not seen Dear Santa. And again, context is key. So if that's a reference to something that we've previously talked about, I do not remember it enough to say. Cthulhu saying, wish you all happy Thanksgiving. Absolutely. Happy and blessed Thanksgiving. Let's see. Jim Mike 76 hanging out. What's going on? Thanatos Felicitas saying, food. What's going on? 743. Mr. Winkster, I don't know if he's saying this to Wicked or to me. I want a refund. Well, there's no refunds here because the show is free. You're welcome. What else can I say? Forever Sci-Fi sent you some movies to either keep or give away for Christmas. They are in your P.O. box now, supposedly. Thank you, Forever Sci-Fi. I don't check my P.O. box regularly because there typically isn't a need to, but thank you. Yeah, and this goes, if anyone ever sends me something, please let me know because the P.O. box and the postal service is very finicky. So if you don't show up for even just 2 weeks, they will send packages back. So yes, that's the right thing to do, Forever Sci-Fi, just letting me know that. So I will put it on my my list of things to do to go to the P.O. box. In fact, I will even write it down just to make sure. Check P.O. box. You made the list, dude. Thank you. Appreciate it. Kevin Wang coming in for the few comments, but thank you for saying hi. Appreciate it, man. How are you doing? What is going to make more Wicked or Moana 2? Moana 2 is the most watched movie on Disney+. Yes, and Wicked is the biggest Broadway musical in the last decade, or one of the biggest. I mean, this is a show that took over a theater and has been in the same theater for almost 20 years. In fact, no, more than 20 years, because I believe the show debuted back in 2003. And it's 2024. And so they have that. They renamed the street Gershwin because of Wicked. They've got all of this stuff. This is a huge property. And I don't think people realize this. I've mentioned this in my article on geeksandgamers.com. I do write for geeksandgamers.com, so check out my box office breakdown there if you would rather a more concise version of the box office breakdown, as I can be a bit wordy at times. But ultimately, we have to just remember this. And again, it's important to remember when it comes to math and when it comes to numbers.
Time to see a real mathematician at work.
It's time for a real mathematician to go to work. Okay, so when it comes to the numbers for the box office. Wicked itself is a huge IP. Wicked is not just, despite what people think, is not just a domestic brand. It is not just New York based, okay? We're talking about a musical that has been seen by countless Americans from across the entire country. People will literally dedicate an entire trip to New York just to be able to go see Wicked. So not only do you already have in our own country a huge cross-population of even just state residents, you then add on top of that the fact that this show has been in the United Kingdom, has been in pretty much every major country, and has had a major presence in those countries. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen compilations, which have hundreds of thousands of views plus, of all of the different versions of certain songs, and how different actresses and how different performers have their own spin to the various songs. There are countless cuts that exist, and almost every time they include not only those that were on Broadway or those that were in the national touring cast of the United States, but also include international tours as well, because these are huge. Now, I will say, do I think Wicked is going to be the biggest international release? No. Do I think that Wicked is going to break records internationally? No. But do I think that Wicked is going to have a very strong showing international and is going to likely make enough both in domestic international to get upwards of $1 billion? As of right now, I still think that is possible. Now, it's going to be a lot harder. And what we're going to have to see tomorrow when the Monday numbers come in, we're going to have to see a strong hold. If we see a strong Sunday to Monday hold, that will spell where this movie is likely going to end by the end of the week and ultimately by the end of next weekend. And if we see a strong hold between Sunday and Monday, that is going to be that indicator to me that, okay, domestic is still very much on the board with hundreds of millions of dollars, right? We're talking, if the numbers are strong, upwards of $200, $350 million just domestically, okay? And again, could be even more than that. We're also talking about internationals where it starts off around $50 million. So, and it's also not been released in every country yet, most of the major countries. And so we do have that to factor in, but still more than enough, right, to have a few $100 million potentially available in these different markets. So again, we'll have a much better idea. Just like usual, 2 weeks in is the best metric. It is the most reliable metric because, as I mentioned before, on average, you look to most movie releases and their global numbers, and it's about 30%. Most films make about a third of their entire box office in their global opening, okay? So this, again, on average, most movies. But most does not mean all. And so there are films that can obviously make a lot less, and there's films that can also make a lot more, meaning they can make only, maybe they end up, completely cannibalizing their opening weekend and having 50% of their entire box office in their opening. That means lots of massive drop-offs down the road. Or you have a strong opening and down the line you make even more money, right? We saw this was the case for a film like Puss in Boots, which made huge money down the road, even though it didn't have the biggest opening in the world. We've seen it with The Wild Robot, which had also, again, a low opening and was just able to hold from week to week to week to week. And now that film has obviously crossed over into profitability territory. And if you compare even just the first 2 weeks, not even just the first week alone for that movie, we're talking about it making like less than 15% of its entire global box office in the first week. Because right now the 2 weeks is in the 30s range. That's how successful that movie was. Now, Wicked, we don't know yet. We don't have, as I said, we don't have any real drop-off metrics to look at. And that Sunday to Monday will be huge. And also what it does up against Moana. If Moana ends up just blowing it out of the water, right? If the opening day for Moana blows it out of the water on Wednesday, all right, that could spell problems. If Wicked is able to go toe-to-toe with a brand new Moana, and Wicked being out now for several days, that could also be an indicator that in that case, Moana may not be as strong. So yeah, the coming days will be the biggest indicator. As of right now, all we can say is the opening for Wicked was not as strong as they thought. It was not as strong as people suspected. I mean, again, we were talking about the potential for it to reach $150 million domestic opening. That did not materialize. It was now adjusted down. It was initially $114 million. Now it's been adjusted down to about $112 million domestic with the actual numbers. Still $50 million, and it's still $162 million worldwide. And if you, again, take the metric that this film likely will, at the very least, bare minimum, perform, because all of the reviews have been, as far as like just generalities, generally speaking, positive across the board, whether it be critics or audiences. And so there is no reason to suspect that this movie will not be able to carry out a vast positive word of mouth campaign. Now, Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington didn't like the music. There's a lot of people in this chat who probably don't like musicals, are turned off because of what Cynthia Erivo has said. And again, those are all valid things. However, there's a lot more people outside of our space. There's a lot more people that exist. And just to give you a bare metric of this, like let's say $162 million ends up being, and it's about 163. So let's just be fair, right? 163. Let's say that it ends up being about a third of its entire box office. That would mean that it has the potential to get a minimum of $489 million worldwide. Now, again, that is like Little Mermaid numbers. That film was able to get into the $400-500 million range. And that film, because of its cost, ended up being still a failure. But that film, there's no one that can deny the film did much better down the road than people would have thought otherwise, based off of some of the initial numbers. That being said, Wicked is not looking to be in the same position because Wicked does not have the same negative press in the same way that Little Mermaid did. Wicked is an adaptation that people are enjoying quite a bit, especially those that are even fans of the musical. That's a big thing, right? Because the audience that this is made for is clearly the theater-going audience. And so if they enjoy it, the probably the harshest critics of the actual story and the actual presentation of the story on film and how it adapts it, that tells us quite a bit, right? And so that's why do not sleep on the box office for this movie. And I think that, yes, Moana 2 will do well. Honestly, I don't know which will do better in the long run because this week, Wednesday, will be a much better indicator of this. So anyway, thank you for the question, Kevin. All right. Joey Horn. Hello, Odin. What's up, Joey Horn? Thanks for being a member here on the channel. By the way, I was going to try to record a premium podcast episode this week before I head out on a family trip, very short trip to Georgia. I don't know if I'll be able to. I was planning on recording it tomorrow evening at some point. I don't know if I'll be able to do that because I don't know where my voice is going to be. So I might have to postpone until December. And I do apologize for that. I know I haven't been as consistent on those as I wish I could have been. But thank you all in advance for understanding if I'm not able to. There is a Q&A post live on the YouTube community tab. If you're a member on YouTube, check out the community tab. You get access to a post that you can ask questions and we'll address those on the podcast. You get access also to all the previous podcast episodes, and those are exclusive to y'all as members. So check that out. Become a member today. Let's see. Luke Zilla, what's going on, brother? Welcome. Rob D, hello, Odin. Today's my birthday. It was funny at work today. One of the ladies said Ariana Grande looks like an alien in Wicked. She does not look good. And that's not an insult. That is a concerned person. I am concerned for her health. I really am. Let's see. Laura saying Wicked, loved it. Boom. There it is. There it is. And you all know, Laura, I think has some of the best taste in movies. We tend to agree on a lot of things. That's not the reason why she has good taste in movies, but typically she has keen insights that I always appreciate and I typically agree with. And it's always fun going back and forth with her. And so she liked Wicked. I think I will as well. Cthulhu. Owen's voice is how we know he saw Wicked and sang along with the movie. Have not seen it yet. That is a movie my wife wants to see, so I'm holding off for that. I have been able to scan through the movie, I'll just put it that way, because I was curious about a couple of things, mostly how they pulled off the final song. I think there's reasons to critique how they do Defying Gravity a little bit, because I hate the CG stuff. I really do. Obviously, I know they have the ability to do it, and the play and stage production has a lot of limitations to what they can do. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you have to use a lot of stuff. I don't know. That's just me. Mike Jackson, what's going on, brother? King Ken Remsky tend to say, I'm going to need you to power through tonight's show like a man. I'm going to do the best I can. Do the best I can. Justin C. Hail, get well soon, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that. Laura saying, did you put honey in your tea? Seems to help me. Yes, I did. I always put honey in my tea as well. It is always a huge benefit for sure. And yeah, I have my pumpkin spice tea. Pumpkin spice with a spoonful of honey. It is delicious. All right, let us see here. We got Laura saying, my 1 p.m. show of Wicked was sold out. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not. And does that mean 1 p.m. today on a Monday? Again, I do think that this show will perform very strong throughout the week. And that's why I think even though a weak opening, or again, I don't mean weak, weaker than expected. Again, 112 is not close to 150. Again, going into the weekend, 150 was being talked about. Even 130, 40 by most of the traditional box office covers, right? That it did not get even close to that. And I think a big part of it might be because people want to see this together as a group. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people who would have seen an opening weekend instead decided to wait for family to come in or what have you, right? To be able to see it with friends. Forever Sci-Fi, I heard Captain America 4 is going through reshoots again. We might get a movie with a budget of about $1 billion. I don't think it's going to get that high. That being said, it's going to be, it's already, even just based off of speculation, and even if you're the kindest you can be, the most conservative you can be with the estimates, that movie is going to cost so much freaking money. And one could argue, hey, maybe Disney is on the right track. And if at least they've got these films that are still in the pipe that they clearly just, should never have made, what were greenlit during a time when they were going in a very different direction, whatever the argument is, one could also potentially argue that maybe the marketing for the movie may end up being, we haven't seen it yet because these trailers have not been all that great. But if they're able to turn the marketing around, they might be able to actually get more money out of it than it has any right to get. Because marketing can be a very, very, very powerful tool. We saw this happen with Barbie, right? Barbie's marketing, despite what anyone thinks, I hated the movie. I thought the movie was trash. I thought it taught a terrible message, and it drives me crazy that a lot of the people who saw it, who liked it, just did not even get the nonsense, identitarian nonsense that was being pushed in there, right? Especially that speech. That was given. It's just like, and the whole movie, you could see that stuff in there. That was just the most blatant, obvious point of it. But I digress. No one can deny, though, as much as I hate that movie, the marketing, A+. Marketing for that movie was an A+, because it did exactly what it needed to do. It appealed to the right demographic, and sure enough, what happened? They showed up opening weekend and weekend after weekend after weekend. And if Disney's able to pull that around, I don't think they will. But if they do, maybe. But even then, we're talking about a best case scenario. I would say a best case scenario. I don't think this is going to happen. Okay, that's why I'm calling it a best case scenario. Best case scenario for Captain America 4 is they're able to somehow turn it around, and they're able to push the film to like 950, maybe $1 billion. If that's their best case scenario, and I don't think that's likely at all, for the record. I think that movie does closer to $400 to $600 million, if I had to guess, as of right now. That could easily change, higher or lower. But at $1 billion even at that number, with the budget that's being projected, that would not be enough to cover the costs from everything that we're hearing about this movie. So it's going to be bad. It's going to be awful. Kimberly G, Killing Shadowcat. Howdy, Odin, mods, and lovely chat. I'm wrapping gifts while watching. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Well, I apologize, Kimberly G, that you have to listen to my garbage voice while you wrap presents. Not that my voice is all that great in other times, but I do apologize. I feel like when you're listening to something in the background, you want it to have a nice, pleasing sound, not whatever nonsense garble is coming out of my mouth right now, as I'm like slowly trying to keep myself from having, like, my nose is getting stuffy. Oh, it's awful. It is awful. Definitely looking forward to having a couple days off. Jimmy A. Try to say, for me personally, this weekend, the theater was full in the lobby. This could just be me, though. No, Jimmy A., here's the thing. There is no denying that this was a busy weekend. And here's the thing. As much as I hate deadlines, editorializing that often occurs, and how they often also never do things like adjust for inflation or deal with real numbers and real data, drives me nuts. The one thing that we cannot forget is, based off of Tony's reporting, shout out to good old Tony at Deadline. His report and his coverage of the box office this weekend was that this was the best weekend before Thanksgiving. Already a fun metric right there, right? It was the best fourth Tuesday after November in the year of our Lord in the last 30 years, right? Just, and obviously take the year of our Lord out because Lord knows that they don't talk about it. Why would they? But the point still stands. The fact, though, is this was supposedly the best weekend before Thanksgiving in 11 years, in over a decade. That is nothing to ignore because, yes, I can argue easily. Well, if you actually adjust for inflation, that changes a bit. But even if you do that, that is still a very impressive feat because we're still dealing with at least one of the best weekends, right? Pre-Thanksgiving weekends that we've had in 5 years? Or at the very least, one of the top 10 weekends in the last 10 years. That's still, I think, something that is worth noting. And so that is still, I think, a sign of the strength of Wicked and the mediocrity that is Gladiator, right? Because typically movies that come out before Thanksgiving, I don't remember, all the movies that are there. I can't think of a lot of pre-Thanksgiving movies that are like well known. Maybe y'all have that information in the chat. But I feel like typically you don't have huge releases because people are waiting for the Thanksgiving movies. And then you normally don't want to have competition up against the major releases either. So again, take that for what it is. But that is a big deal. That shows us that there were more people this weekend than on most pre-Thanksgiving weekends. And also a huge increase from the weekends before as well. Orange Hat says, we'll be lurking. Orange Hat shucking his duties. Joey Horn, I don't like all the cussing, but Landman has me hooked. Yes, dude. Seriously. Because that's the other topic of the night as well, as I get through y'all's chats. But Landman, guys, this show is just honestly so freaking good. And I'll go ahead and pull this up for a second. So as you can see, the numbers for Wicked were adjusted down. $162.9 million is where that film currently stands. So about $2 million or so less than the initial projections. Same also can be said, or similar story can be said for Gladiator. I think Gladiator actually ended up coming in just about where it was projected. Yeah, 55.5 was the initial projection, and the movie ended up at 55.0. So a much smaller adjustment for Gladiator 2 total number-wise versus that of Wicked. But Wicked clearly the winner here, okay? So I think, again, we have to be very clear. Wicked did great. Gladiator 2 did fine, but for the budget of that movie, it's not, I don't think, going to be good enough, but we'll wait and see. Those internationals are going to be interesting to see come in. But just Landman. This is a new series from the mind of Taylor Sheridan, who has done shows like Yellowstone, Tulsa King. Tulsa King I'm a big fan of. Yellowstone I also quite enjoy as well. And this, to me, is yet another just knock 'em out of the park story, because it tells and deals with, it says here, set in the proverbial boom towns of West Texas and modern day tale of fortune seeking in the world of oil rigs. The series is an upstairs downstairs story of roughnecks and wildcat billionaires that are fueling a boom so big it's reshaping our climate, our economy, and our geopolitics. Now you hear that and you think, oh, climate, I don't like that. But here's the funny thing, okay? In the last episode, episode 3, and this is going around social media, you can find it very easily. You have this huge rant given by, again, the character Tommy Norris, played by Billy Bob Thornton. And what he's doing is he's having a conversation with this lawyer who's been brought in by the oil company to look into a problem. There was a huge explosion that happens, and the lawyer is trying to look into it. And basically the guy, Billy Bob Thornton's character, is being told, oh, by the way, this is the kind of lawyer that she is. She's looking to hold you responsible, right? She's looking for who to blame. And likely this is going to be trying to put it on you because there's some people that don't like you, basically. And so she starts going off, right, about oil and the corruption, and she's finding out that this company is having to do a lot of shady things, and that Billy Bob Thornton's is having to do a lot of shady things that involve these cartels and all these things, and like equipment being behind, and she's like this high and mighty, prissy personality type. And at one point they're driving along, and she looks at these wind turbines, and because again she comes across as like one of these Ivy League liberals who live in like Austin, Texas, and are just completely separate from reality. Like, don't actually understand the working man, don't actually understand how real people live, basically. And so he decides to go off on this, like, side road along all of the turbines. And when they get out, he explains to them, oh, by the way, yeah, you know who pays for these turbines and paid for their construction? By the way, it was the oil companies that did that. Oh, and you know what? You realize that in the lifespan of one of these turbines, it will not offset the carbon footprint it took to create the turbine and the concrete and everything that it took to put these things up. Oh, and by the way, did you not realize that these turbines actually are only here because they are what are actually powering our oil rigs, because there's no power out this far in the desert? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then he just goes off on her. And it is just some of the best writing that I have seen, because it's not even a political take. And that's why, when I was putting my rating on Critic List, right, I give it right now, it's a rad at 75%. I'm only holding it back from most excellent because in this episode especially, there's a sequence that's just, again, completely unnecessary, where Ali Lauder, I haven't seen her since Heroes, by the way. Ali Lauder is in this show, who plays the ex-wife of Billy Bob Thornton's character, and we get to see her naked. And it's just, again, I really hate that stuff. They're divorced in the show, and there's just like, she's like still like, flirting with him. And just, I hate that crap when they promote it, try to, glorify it in certain ways. And then of course, when they actually show that nonsense, but then also they show you Michelle. So Ainsley Norris, played by Michelle something. They show her in like very skimpy clothing. And I believe in the show she's supposed to be 17. And again, I don't like that. I do not like if she was 30, if they were doing that, but most especially if she's being portrayed as being a teenager. I also think that's even more despicable and more disgusting. But I just, again, there are reasons for me to have issues with it because of that stuff. But if you take that stuff out, which luckily is very small in the show, but I do give those warnings out there because it is there and it is worth criticizing. The rest of the show is really good. And I love the stories that are being told. He has a son who's trying to get into the business, but he doesn't want to just become an oil tycoon. He wants to actually get his hands dirty. There's a lot of really great casting too that I was surprised by, especially with what, the things that happen. They're not even listed on here, so I don't even mention their names. But you also have James Jordan, who I really like. I think I remember him most from his days. I think this is the same actor who was in Veronica Mars. Anyone who's ever seen that show, solid show. Oh yeah, that's definitely him. There it is, Veronica Mars. He plays two different characters on Veronica Mars. I love it. They liked him so much. They recast him, I think, the next season to be a different character. It's great. But James Jordan is great. I love him. He's funny. He plays a great role in the show. Again, a very small role, limited, but everything on screen is great. Jacob Laughlin plays the son. He does a great job. Billy Bob Thornton, of course, is amazing in his performances there too. And then John Hamm plays like the oil tycoon, and even he does a great job with his wife, played by Debbie Moore. So this is I think, a very strong show. And other than just that one thing, again, that's enough for me. Like, if that stuff's not in there, this show is like a high 80s show for me. Like, that's how good the writing is, how it's filmed, the characters. I just really enjoy it. But again, that sexual stuff, as you all know, bothers me, and just is again, too much for me. But yeah, Landman is great. Other than that, Isaac 5.56x45. What's going on, Isaac? Welcome. Dustin Blackthorn, hail to you. And again, I apologize for my voice being trash. Illness going around the house. Saul says a spoon of honey with lemon would help with that throat. Yeah, I had, again, tea with some honey. I don't really like lemon as much, but the honey usually helps. So I had one before, and I'll definitely be making one after the stream, which, let's see, I can probably go for probably another 20 minutes. I think I can do a full hour tonight. Let's see. Two Penny Puppet. What's going on, dude? I saw Bonhoeffer this weekend. Every Saturday show and some of the Sundays were sold out. That's really cool. It didn't make huge money, this weekend. It made about 5 million domestic, which again for a Angel Studios movie is respectable. But oh, my bad. Forgot to switch that over. Apologies. So yeah, I still need to watch it. I still need to see it. I've been hearing nothing but good things. I have my screener still. It's just my screener I've actually had to get resent a few times because it's only had like a day or two lifespan. And then when I'm actually ready to watch it, I go to watch it and the link has expired. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So hopefully it still works. I'll have probably some time to watch it either tonight or tomorrow, or at least start it. But I've heard good things. But I will say this much. The box office has not been huge. So I wouldn't be surprised if those were smaller screens, or if those were screens that were bought out by local churches and things like that. Still good. Still good. Orange Hat saying, Dear Santa, is Jack Black as Santa helping a kid? Yep. No, thank you. I have no interest in that whatsoever. Caveat Ties, what's going on? Welcome. Let's see. Carl Jacobs. Dear Santa, kid accidentally writes letter to Santa instead writes letter to Satan instead of Santa. Released on Paramount Plus. Yeah, no interest in that. None whatsoever. Not only because I don't care for Jack Black anymore, but or at least these days, but also that no, thank you. I don't want that nonsense. Kigan Rumsky. That's the stuff. I know you always like it. Sacre Bleu, the Deadly Poke of Zorro. What's up, Sacre Bleu? Hello, Odin, my favorite math dealer. You got it, man. Yeah, science. Yeah, math. Orange, I truly believe that Wicked will repeat the Barbie fluke. Again, I don't know necessarily if it'll do that, or possibly even exceed it. It's not seeing the similar starting point, I believe, that Wicked had. I'll actually have to look back to my numbers because, in fact, let me go ahead and see. Box office. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Projections. Because I got one for this year, but then I've got my running tally from previous years. Because I know that a lot of y'all could probably look up some of these things, but yeah. So it's not going to get Barbie numbers, I don't think, personally. And here's the reason why. Barbie opened, we forget, Barbie opened to $344 million worldwide. $344 million worldwide. That was the marketing, okay? Marketing was so powerful that it ended up getting to $774 million worldwide by week 2. So my initial projections had that at $1.1 to $1.54 billion. Now, for some reason, the numbers system is all messed up right now. It won't import data into my charts, and I'm very frustrated by that because it was working well for quite a long time. But that film ended up capping out around $1.44 billion. So right in line with my initial projections. But I still think Wicked will be big. I don't know if it'll do 1.4 billion, but we'll have to wait and see. Victor Fontaine says that cold is going around. I caught it in the beginning of the month. Better now. It always sucks getting sick for the holidays. Get better soon. Thank you. Yeah, other than that, I'm feeling fine. So honestly, I don't mind it as much because as long as I can function and do other things, talking is not something that I'm as affected by. Obviously, for things like this, I am. But in general, I don't mind not having to talk as much. Let's see. Jez Pena. Ahoy. Ahoy to you, Jez Pena. Welcome. Dan Crane. What's up, Dan Crane? Hail Odin and the family of Odin. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Happy Turkey Day. Forever Sci-Fi. Always leaving. Thank you for being here. Forever Sci-Fi. Wicked actress hasn't had the same amount of time to do damage as Rachel Zegler has for Snow White. Sounds like the movie is at least faithful to the story, Forever Sci-Fi says. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. There's no reason for me to suspect that this is going to turn off most people. Because, and this is something I know Ryan, RK Outpost, has mentioned, and I've mentioned it too. Sometimes we can get caught up in our bubbles, and we can think that everyone thinks the same thing in the same way as we do. But the truth is that is just not the case. That's why I feel like Barbie can do $1.4 billion worldwide. Even after the movie has come out, even after it's blatantly obvious what kind of movie it is and what it's trying to push and what it's trying to preach. Because we get it, we understand it, But for most people, it either goes over their head so much that they don't even recognize it, or they actually agree with it to a certain extent. It's the only way that you can possibly get people to come out of that movie loving it with the nonsense that's in it. Either they have to enjoy that already and agree with it to a certain extent, or the only alternative is that it goes over their heads. Soul Assassin, ask Odin anything. Finally can ask about what a plethora is. Jefe, what is a plethora? Hardwick, still maintain that Sam Raimi's Oz the Great and Powerful, as flawed as it may be, is better than any version of Wicked. No, dude, not even close. Bro, get out of here with that nonsense. Oz the Great and Powerful is garbage. Complete and utter garbage. And some of the worst CG effects that I've ever seen. I mean, good Lord. One need only look at how they did the Wicked Witch of the West. Gosh, awful. No, Broadway show, phenomenal. Even the book that's based off, very different in many ways, is much more entertaining. So, no, definitely not. That movie is objectively bad. Wicked, as a musical, is actually very well done. Very well written. Good story. Good storytelling. Great music. Very catchy music. And there's a reason why it did very well at the Tonys that year. What's funny is that it actually ended up losing some pretty big categories because a little show called Avenue Q, which most people haven't even heard of, sadly, ended up winning. And actually, to be honest, I think in many ways, Avenue Q was one of the better shows that year. Because if you look at the writing for that show, it was very clever. In fact, many of us today, if we actually go back and watch and listen to some of the songs from Avenue Q, we would be calling that show based in many ways. Now, it definitely was not perfect. For instance, they had a lot of jabs, and in hindsight, it actually makes a lot more sense. But they had some jabs at like George Bush and other things. But I mean, it's pretty great. And that was what it was up against that year. But no, Wicked. I'm sorry, dude. You're never going to make an argument that Oz the Great and Powerful is in any way a good film or even better than almost any film. Like, to say that film is better than anything is very hard. Let's see. Laura says, very few singers could project the power that Cynthia had during the Gravity song, especially the final part. Yeah. Again, everything that I've heard has sounded pretty good. Hardwick saying, have you seen the new Star Trek Unification short film? If so, what do you think of it? I've not seen it. We talked about it on the Salty Saturday show this past weekend. So I got to see like a little bit of like the effects. It looks like the effects were pretty well done. I've heard good things about it. So King and Remsky, can you say you're not the only one cursed with knowledge? You're not the only one cursed with knowledge. Kimberly G, we appreciate you making the effort even when you're ill. I hope you get better soon. Thank you, Kimberly G. Yeah, because I feel like I had to cancel some shows, more shows last few months than I ever have in my life, or the life of this channel. So I was like, well, look, I've only got 3 classes to teach tomorrow. It's a half day. I can, bear through 3. And, a good 20, 25 minutes of the class is going to be them doing some review where I don't have to talk. So I think I'll be okay. In a normal week, I would have canceled because I would have had a full week of teaching ahead of me. But since I've got only 3 classes left, I'll be okay. Let's see. Forever Sci-Fi, let's be real. We all know that Odin blew out his voice singing along to Wicked. Definitely not. Guys, I haven't seen it yet. Mr. Wingster, Odin needs a hug. Anyway, I'm off for an early night. Good night, chat. Well, Mr. Wingster, good night to you. Sorry I drove you away with my voice. Jimmy A, shout out to Odin for doing the episode this week. It takes a real tough guy to move forward even when not feeling well. I appreciate that, Jimmy A. I appreciate it. It's more of I feel bad for y'all. I don't feel bad myself as much. I feel more so empathy and sadness for you guys for having to listen to this trash voice. Mr. Wingster, have a happy Thanksgiving and remember that Tulsa King is trash. Well, again, part of that statement is good because, yes, indeed, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving as well, Mr. Wingster. But no, Tulsa King is great. This season was fantastic, and most people are sensible enough to like it. Justin C. Landman could do without the nudity. Also, could you give us the Riddler, hey guy, in the garbage voice? I can try. And Laura, there's Laura. Hey guys. Actually, you know what? I actually sound pretty normal. Hey guys. So I guess I have to just talk like this now. Oh, that's really creepy. I don't like that. I don't like how that sounds normal in some weird way. Gosh. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, that's awful. Jimmy, speaking of unnecessary nudity, when are they finally going to put pants on Godzilla? Oh, man. Yeah. Again, if they ever try to do some type of like anatomically correct Godzilla, I would just be like, no, stop it. Stop it. Sherry Allen, what's going on, Sherry? Welcome. Victor Fontaine, thank you, dude. Thank you for the $20 Rumble rant. Gosh. Oh, and a little cash to get some cough medicine for that cold. Get better soon. I got the medicine. Thank you, dude. And appreciate that rant. I still don't quite understand how the Rumble stuff works because I know I've made something there. I don't know if it's ever deposited. It's a very weird system. But I appreciate it, Victor Fontaine. You're a scholar and a gentleman and a scholar, I should say. And I do appreciate your support. At the very least, it can go towards my next batch of tea/honey. Probably more so honey because I got a lot of tea left. Honey, we're about like 2/3 of the way through our bottle. Sherry Allen, hope you and your family are doing well. Sorry being late, no problem at all. Orange Hat, the Barbie Fluke is a movie that has woke elements in the movie, but makes profit due to the nostalgia. Everything that I've heard about Wicked does not really establish that. Because again, Barbie was not even just woke element. Like, we're just talking about a flat out woke story. All right. It was ingrained in the very story. People often got distracted by the big moments, like especially the big speech that America Ferrera did. But the movie itself has it from head to toe. Okay. With how it was made. And it makes perfect sense because I remember early on, I remember covering this, right? Where we looked at the writers for the movie, and Greta Gerwig, of course, is a key writer. So is her not husband/partner, whatever the hell that is. Again, gosh, I hate that stuff. But part of the story was initially attributed to like a girl's psychology textbook or something like that, right? It was an academic book of some kind on teenage girl psychology. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I remember as we got closer to the movie getting released, that like got removed and got pushed into a different location. So I wasn't surprised to see that nonsense in there, but it was a part of like the very origins of that story. Whereas Wicked, the play itself, does not have that stuff in there. The musical, the only stuff that I've heard is that in Oz, I believe, at Shiz University, there are characters portrayed that are very clearly like LGBTQ+. But here's the thing. Wicked is kind of the place for that, to be perfectly honest. I may not like that. I don't support that. But it's one thing to put that in Shiz University in a musical. Hopefully you get my drift there, right? We're talking about, something that is really, Broadway musicals in general predominantly have two, larger proportions of two groups. Of the fan base, larger proportions of women are in the audience and larger proportions of the LGBTQ community as well, right? The alphabet community as the better expression, because Lord, those numbers change all the time. Okay. But again, I think that this, if it's going to be put in anything, this is the one where it makes the most sense. It's one thing if they've tried to put that nonsense into Star Wars where it has no place to be. Okay. We see that, we call that out. It has every right to be called out. If it's put into Wicked, though, it's like, okay, that seems to make sense. I don't like it, but at least it like fits the narrative that the story itself really is. But that's also just having those characters in there. It does not mean that you're actually pushing a message like Barbie did. Barbie clearly had a message. They had a speech in there. Not so much in Wicked. Then I just released that saying, children are petri dishes for diseases. They infect their families. This is true, especially in daycare. Adam Rangel. What's up, Adam? Best movie you've watched semi-recently. Also hope that you have a great Thanksgiving. Hey, you as well, Adam Rangel. Yeah, I actually just rewatched. My son watched it for the first time, and I watched it last night for the second time, and that's The Wild Robot. Fantastic movie. Highly recommend it. It's great for kids and for adults. There's a line in there I did not catch the first time, but my wife and I caught it simultaneously. We made eye contact, and we're like, oh, we like that. And there's a character in the movie. It features like talking animals, but the way they do it is actually really good. But it's a robot talking animals. And so at one point, this beaver character says, someone's trying to say something nice to him or something like that. And he says, well, that's a load of bovine excrement. And immediately I'm like, oh, I like that. Because it's a kid's movie, so you can't have them say even the shorthand of BS. You can't have them say bull, So bovine excrement, I'm like, oh, that is brilliant. So like such a deep cut. I did not even catch it the first time. But it's got a lot of good stuff in there. Great story about family. That family is more than just your blood. It's the people who raise you, who love you. It's really good. Zine Waters. What's up, Zine? It's been a while, dude. Wicked is only good if you like revisionist storytelling. It kicked off a lot of this nonsense in media and is rooted in queer theory. Yeah, I know that people have said that, Zine, and maybe even the author has said it, but I've read the book, I've seen the musical, and it honestly does not ever come across in that way. It really doesn't. I think that when the author wrote the book, he meant it as like a fun way of putting the story on its head, and then later on decided to like add things to it, and to try to add meaning where there actually was no meaning. It's been a long time since I've read the book too, so take that with a grain of salt. It's been about 20 years or so since I've read the book, but from what I can remember, I don't remember it coming across that way. But it would not surprise me at all to see them push that stuff. Laura saying, Avenue Q sounds gay. Is it the gayest? Oh man, that maybe my voice is best suited for that impersonation. Is it the gayest Star Wars you've ever seen? that one reporter, didn't he do that like twice for Two Big Things? Where he's like, my number one question is it the gayest? It's like, really? It's the one question you have on the red carpet for any story? It's ridiculous. But funny enough, no, Avenue Q is actually really, really funny. There's a song that literally is called Everyone's a Little Bit Racist. One of the best lyrics. Everyone's a little bit racist sometimes. Doesn't mean we go around committing hate crimes. It's a very clever musical. Oh, very inappropriate too. It's a show with puppets. And you know how in Team America World Police, they have puppets and there's puppets doing inappropriate things? It's like adult Sesame Street is another way of looking at Avenue Q. Keegan Rumsky, undying, you should choose your words more carefully. Honestly, all that reminds me of is Too Bad That You Will Die from that terrible Mortal Kombat sequel. Cthulhu, I hope you feel better soon. And Nosferatu sounds like it'll be an exceptional movie. Last decent movie of the year. Maybe. It's definitely got a lot more going for it than some of the other films. Kimberly G, good night, all. Happy Thanksgiving. Odin, get some rest. Thank you. I appreciate it. I only have a few minutes probably left for my voice, for the sake of my voice, though. 8:30. Let's see. Laura's laughing. Hey, guys. I don't like that. I don't like how my voice sounds somewhat normal. Zine. Regarding unnecessary nudity, the censors want Chewbacca to wear pants. As Mark Hamill said, of all the things to complain about, the Wookiee has no pants. Yeah. I mean, again, if there was something to be covering up, sure, but there isn't. Gary Benjamin, Is you voice defying gravity? My voice is defying gravity right now. Laura, Chewie had no pants and Carrie had no bra. Oh yeah, that's the one where you're like, really? Why does she clearly not have a bra? It's so stupid. I love that movie, but it's like, why? Why? Let's see. Hardwick. There's a fan edit of Barbie that supposedly removes the woke elements. I tried watching that fan edit, and it was still so woke that I gave up on it because it's rooted in the very foundation of what it is. So that does not surprise me. Hardwick then says, on the plus side, I recently found a fan edit of No Time to Die that turns it into a fun, solid James Bond adventure without any other nuances. It's 35 minutes long. That's really funny, actually. I know that you're being honest, probably, but like you think about how long that movie is, and for a fun, solid James Bond movie to have it cut down all the way to 35 minutes. Hey guys, what rhymes with hate crimes? It does. Oh man. Orange Chat, rest your voice, Odin, sleep well and stay safe. Thank you, Orange Chat. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Zine says, Wicked as queer theory. If you've read the sequels to the Wicked book, this becomes clear. Queer theory isn't about being gay. It's about being subversive to society. You could be a straight queer. Oh, okay. Yeah. Because that is all that. Yeah. So, but I think you've kind of answered it, Zine, right? That, it seems like the original book was not really meant to be that, but the author clearly was influenced by it. And so after it was released, decided to like reimagine or restate or refocus on certain things to try to push that somehow he was always doing that. And then decided to make it much more clear in the follow-ups after. It would be my guess, right? Because as I said, from what I remember of that specific book, I don't really remember a lot of that stuff being in there, because that part of it about being subversive, I mean, there's plenty of stories and storytelling elements that you can be subversive with that does not necessarily go into the whole stuff with queer theory. Queer theory definitely still has certain implications to it that are above and beyond just being subversive, right? But yeah, again, it also has been a long time since I've read the book, so I'm only speaking just from what I can remember about the story. Let's see, Jimmy A. Which is worse, Carrie Fisher with no bra or Slave Leia costume? As far as like morally speaking, the Slave Leia costume. Gosh. Hardwick. George Lucas told Carrie Fisher that there are no bras in space. Oh, talk about lines that could get you sued in 2024. Hardwick. The fan edit starts with the opening lab heist, then immediately goes into Bond meeting with Felix Leiter, then uses all of the Ana de Armas scenes, then wraps up with a scene of Bond and M talking. Dude, that's hilarious. And it reminds me, remember when Ana de Armas was in that movie and was a better character than the primary female lead? Because they put what's her name in it. She ended up being in like everything. She was in Captain Marvel and Lashana Lynch, right? Lashana Lynch is her name. And I was like, I remember watching the movie. I remember watching that last of the Daniel Craig Bond films. And when Ana de Armas' scenes came up, I'm like, why the hell isn't she the lead? Like, if you're going to try to make a strong female character that is on par with Bond, that's the direction you go, because Ana de Armas is actually a feminine character, a feminine person, and would honestly fit that role very well. Whereas for Lashana Lynch, she instead comes across as a bit more androgynous, as an attempt to try to be more masculine, which just never comes across as working in any way. And no one at any point bought that she could ever actually do anything close to what he did. Whereas everything that Ana de Armas did in the film, you're like, yeah, I buy it. Forever Sci-Fi, Owen's voice might be better suited to say, I actually can't. You would think that, but if I try to put on that voice, where's the trigger? Like, it actually hurts the voice a bit more. Probably shouldn't have done that. King and Rumsky. Any musical that is not gay. Any musical that is not gay. Seriously. Let's see. Zion. It's possible the original Wicked book wasn't as bad. I first came across all of them when the first sequel came out. Yeah, because the first one was... Now, when you say sequel, Zion, are you talking about the other books he wrote? Because all of his books, I think you have a point as far as like his... the impact of queer theory on his working, on his writings, because every one of his books is basically about being subversive, right? Because he has one book that deals with the evil stepsisters and tells their story. He has one, I think, about the lion. Are you talking about those? Or are you talking specifically about the direct sequel to Wicked, which was Son of a Witch? And was there a third? Because I read Son of a Witch, which was not as good as Wicked. But I don't remember much in that one either. Or are you talking about just the other spin-offs, really, of that Ozian universe? Let's see. Jimmy A says, did someone say Ana de Armas? My heart rate just spiked through the ceiling. She's phenomenal. She is. I know that a lot of y'all are like, oh, I like looking at... Look, she's a talented actress, and she, I think, can really pull off action much better than a lot of other actresses. I'm very much looking forward to her in Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff. I think that one will be really good. Zion, wasn't Phoebe Waller-Bridge a consultant on No Time to Die? Yep, she was part of the final script writing, and I believe it was Daniel Craig who wanted her in the writing room to put in some stuff. Jimmy A, Meg 2 the musical is not at all gay. It would not be at all gay. Favorite sci-fi, a non-gay musical, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, maybe. That's just the thing. I think that anyone who has criticisms of musicals would say it would still be. I mean, I love musicals. Okay, I'm gonna be perfectly frank. I grew up on the stage. I've been doing theater. I've been doing musical theater since I was 10 years old. It's been in my lifeblood for a long time. I've been in the chorus. I've been a lead. I think we've talked about this. If you've been around for a long time, you know. I've been a lead in shows before. I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. I love watching shows as well. Like, I love getting lost in the world. I love the music in many of these shows as well. So yeah, but I totally understand also why people can be a little critical. King and Rumsky, I know what it's like to lose, to feel so desperate that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless. Zion, Son of a Witch was what I was thinking. There was also one on the line. That's right, they did. I didn't look into the stepsister one. Yeah, he did a lot of those. I don't know if he did anything after that. Because after Son of the Witch, I think Son of the Witch was okay. Honestly, I might actually be interested in revisiting it because I've gotten really into audiobooks recently, and I found the ability to be able to get a lot of these audiobooks and get them on my Plex server. So I might actually look into that. And then if I do have a chance to re-listen to it, I'll pay more attention and see if I can pick up some of those themes. Because it is very different than the musical, for sure. Laura, Phantom isn't gay. Laura, that's a good shout. Because I think, honestly, when we say that expression like, is it gay? We don't honestly mean it the way that it's being presented. I think that what most people mean when they say that is it something that most people could actually enjoy? I would argue that Phantom is, honestly, one of the musicals that most people, regardless of background, can enjoy. I honestly think that Phantom, and this topic, because as you can see, I have a lot of passion about this topic, so it's actually keeping me on past where I actually wanted to get off. I do have to wrap up soon, though, because my voice is tired. But anyway. Of all the shows that exist, Phantom is one of those shows where no matter whether you love theater, whether it's it's your life, whether you don't care one way or the other, Phantom was always the show, from my experience at least, that no matter who I talked to, more people had seen it. So people who were not theater people at all had seen it. People that were like marginally aware of certain things had seen it. Some of like the most masculine guys, they saw it with their parents. They had seen it with their family. It was just one of those shows, and is one of those shows that I think can appeal to a much broader demographic. And probably because there is actually a much more, masculine character in that character of the Phantom. So yeah, there are musicals like that I think can kind of bridge that gap. Phantom was definitely one for a long time. That was one of the only ones I feel like that was able to do that. Hardwick, Lashana Lynch isn't in the fan edit, nor is Lea Seydoux. It turns Ana de Armas into Bond's co-star and makes it so that they essentially complete the mission and save the day in their one fight scene. Nice. Gary Banjo saying, Rogue Elements short came out by Critical Drinker, links in Critical. Ooh, okay, nice. Nice. Yeah, Rogue Elements. I need to check it out. Jimmy A. Daniel Craig is also starring in a movie called Quia. It all makes sense now. Yeah, seriously. Gosh, that's right. I forgot there's a movie like that. I Am Inevitable. Hardwick. 7076, Guys and Dolls, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Singing in the Rain, and American in Paris. All, I think, great musicals. I don't think any of them hit the same way. And by this, I mean like in the last 20, 30 years. I don't think any of them hit nearly as well as a show like Phantom does. But I do agree. I was in Guys and Dolls, actually. Very fun show. How to Succeed in Business, also a very fun show. Movie adaptation in all these cases, actually. That's the thing, too. If you're not into theater, but you like movies, all of these have been adapted into movies, and I think are pretty good. I mean, especially Singing in the Rain. Like, one of my all-time favorites. Zine Water, son of a witch, is also gay. Son of the Wicked Witch has an affair with a married man. Oh, man. I don't remember that. I think I only got halfway through, to be honest, because it was just not as good. I didn't like it. So probably won't go ever revisit that story, but the original one, I think I might. There it is, Caveat Ties. I went on a date to Phantom movie. She loved it to death. I didn't care. So yeah, the movie, I would not say caveat. It's the musical specifically. Yeah, because the movie, I honestly don't think was that good. Again, the fact that you had Gerard Butler as the Phantom, like, I'm sorry, he's not a singer. I mean, he wasn't garbage. He was infinitely better than, I think, the worst musical performance that I've ever seen in a movie musical, which was Russell Crowe in Les Mis. He was infinitely better than that, but still also not great. Yeah, I didn't care much for the movie, to be perfectly honest, but I think the show is one that a lot of people had seen, at least, again, in my own experience. So, stayed on longer than I thought, but y'all get me talking about theater. I can talk that up. But all I will say, a bit of wrapping things up, Wicked is doing really well. It's not doing as well as people had thought, right? Again, it went from a projection of up to $150 million and ended up only doing 112 domestically. However, as I said, and I've mentioned this in my Geeks and Gamers article and on my box office video from yesterday, I do think that over the course of this week, it's going to be able to pick up things quite a bit. I think especially a lot of people held off going this weekend because they were waiting for the holiday. They were waiting to see it with their friends, to see it with their family. It's going to be a huge event film, especially for women friends, women family members, of course, for the gay community, as we've been saying. But I do think that is going to be quite big across the board, across all demographics. In fact, I'll be interested once the Movio, I don't know which one specifically it is, but they do the metrics, Movio.co. They do insights into the weekends, and so I'm going to be very interested to see. Oh, they actually have it released. They just did this. Oh, okay. Breaking now, everybody. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. I'll actually pull this up on the screen because we have some demographic breakdown for this past weekend. So again, Movio, I think is pretty cool. I like how it has its charts. We love charts here. So first off, look at this. 92% increase in attendance. So that's why when we said before about it being like one of the biggest weekends in a decade, at the very least, we can say it's again, the biggest weekend we've seen in quite a long time. All right. Because it was a huge increase from last week, but the vast majority of the audience, 51% of the audience, right, accounted for Wicked. So Wicked dominated. Gladiator 2 got second place with 31% of the audience. Overall, for the weekend, when you include everything together, women actually only made up 51% of the weekend audience. This is the stuff that honestly intrigues me most, okay? So overall, the weekend saw the biggest share coming from the 25 to 44 age demographic. Interesting. I feel like they used to have it where they actually broke this down by like Gen Z, Gen Y. So interesting that they have now shifted that. I'm wondering if their metrics have changed a little bit. But vast majority of the audience coming from 25 to 64. So again, huge portion there. 12 to 24, I think that might be why they've added this in to account for kids' movies and kids' audiences as well. View on Tableau Public. Whoa, what's that? Okay, that's taking too long. But here's the interesting part, okay? So the whole weekend for all movies, okay, 51% female. But look at this breakdown here. Of the Wicked audience, 59% of the audience was female. Most movies have usually about a 60% or more male-dominant audience. So this right now, to me, is telling me, hey, guess what? This movie is doing very well with the female audience. And just like with Barbie, which also had the same thing, it's going to make a lot of money. Now, why is it that it's 59% and then it kind of gets down? Well, let's look at Gladiator's audience breakdown. 63% male audience. I'm not surprised by that at all. Hey, do you like Gladiator movies? Ever seen a grown man naked? $5 to, again, 5 imaginary $bucks to anyone who guesses that movie first. But yeah, honestly, I thought that number would be higher. I thought Wicked would be a much more predominantly female audience. But remember, this is a huge shift when most movies on average are about 60-40. The fact that this movie was able to be to about 60-40, the opposite direction, that's a huge swing. And it was able to drive the overall audience to this metric is also quite a large and quite an impressive feat as well. Now, I do think that it'd be worth looking into. And let me go ahead and try to see if I can remember. Oh my gosh, I'm going on so much longer than I had wanted to. Let's see. Barbie release date in 2023, July 21st. Because this is also something fascinating. This is where, again, I'm a nerd. So July 21st. So when that one came out, right, about a similar share there, right, a similar increase in box office. Now, this is interesting. So Barbie, and it's not as surprising, right? Barbie actually had a much larger share in female demographic than even that of Wicked, right? So this movie had about 60% female audience, whereas Wicked had about 59%. So again, not huge difference, but still, even that small amount, I think, indicates why Barbie is a much bigger and was a much bigger hit. And I don't think Wicked's going to get to the same heights in any of the different markets. What's interesting here is, right, look, 12 to 24, 25 to 44 is the biggest market share for the opening weekend of Barbie. Whereas if we compare that to this past weekend here, look, so Barbie, and this is what I said before, that movie was marketed to kids. And I think a lot of people went and brought their kids to that movie, and they should have been paying attention more, right? Because it was PG-13 clearly. But you saw, right, vast majority of the audience actually came from the 12 to 24 and 25 to 44 demographic, from the younger audiences. Wicked, look at this, much more coming from this audience here. Now, is this one especially, right, a third of coming from the 45 to 64, right? This is a very key demo, right? And both of these really fit into that. But also look here, only 10% 65 plus. 65 plus is not being driven out by a lot of movies, right? And that's interesting too. Even Gladiator 2 has the same share of that older audience. Again, they are very hard. Look at this. Bonhoeffer. So Angel Studios, look at that. Bonhoeffer shows you, guess what? Who's a huge portion of their audience? The older demographic, but guess what? That, baby boomer audience, they're going to see movies like that. Because again, 37%, every other movie on here, 11%, 10%. That's really cool. I get caught up in these things. So for anyone that's interested in that kind of stuff, movio.co, a really cool website. I sometimes go on to it. Anyway, I'm stupid. I allow myself to get caught up in these things. So, for sci-fi, does the Simpsons episode Cape Fear count as a musical? Yeah, I would say so. Jimmy A, good night, God bless, and get better soon. Thank you. Zine Waters, yes, 5 imaginary bucks to you. Airplane. Close, Kincaid Rumsky. Very, very close. Zine Waters, is it possible that Wicked could benefit by splitting its budget into 2 films? Potentially. It does, to the extent that instead of, or actually in this, I would say, by having it be a planned 2-parter and by putting up maybe more money up front and then allowing that to be split between the two, allows you to like build sets and do certain things. And then because you're filming at the same time, you're not spending any extra production money, right? Now, they will have to spend more money on marketing, but as of right now, this film is well tracking to be able to make money back and profit. Like, this movie is going to be a profitable movie, I will say, no doubt in my mind. The debate is over how much money will it make. And you know, for me, it's like, it's either going to be like a Little Mermaid capping out at like $500-600 million, or it's going to be $1 billion film. Right now, I'm leaning towards that. And because right now we're seeing a very similar share, all right, a very, very similar share from the female demographic as Barbie was, it's a good sign. It's definitely a very, very good sign. Good night, all, and happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, again, I do have to go because, man, I need some help. Anyway, thank you all very much for being here. This has been a lot of fun. Always great to hang out with you guys, and I hope my voice gets better. But if I don't see y'all in any chats or in the comment section over the next couple of days, I hope that you all have a wonderful, a blessed Thanksgiving. This coming Sunday is the first Sunday of Advent, so start to make some plans. Good time to get back into some good spiritual practices. And thank you all again for understanding the voice and for also all the well wishes as well. I'm going to go get some more tea. Anyway, you guys are awesome, amazing, and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your night. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illich and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. And also to the K-Man. Check out his website, xtheboundaries.co. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.